It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Hey everybody, Dustin Schmidt back here again today. And I've been wanting to make a series of videos about a new camera I picked up, which was the C500 Mark II. I talked about it a little bit in one of my last videos. And I had just got it in, and I was starting to kind of gather my initial thoughts. And I'm actually still kind of going through that process. A little bit of background for you. I'm a professional photographer and DP here in Oklahoma City. And I've shot on a bunch of different cameras over the years. And when the C500 Mark II first came out, you know, over 4 years ago at this point, I rented it a couple times and I used it for some jobs. And I really liked it, and I liked the image because I had shot on C300 Mark IIs and C200 and some other stuff in the past. So I liked the Canon system. But then kind of moved on to some other stuff. I actually ended up working with a C300 Mark III for a long time just because it was a little bit cheaper when I was doing some other corporate stuff. And, you know, through all that, ups and downs, etc., ended up with a couple different cameras. I was using a Canon R5C to do some hybrid work, some photo and video work, and I was using a red Komodo that I bought. I made a few videos about that too. But then something interesting happened, you know, a couple months ago. There was a merger of two companies, you know, Lens Rentals, Borrow Lenses. They merged and they were selling off a bunch of inventory. So I bought this camera, the C500 Mark II, and I got it used. And I made another video about that, and I got it for around $5K. And then I was talking about some of the other stuff I was going to do, and I ended up picking up the Canon PL mount. So there's a Wooden Camera makes one, and Canon makes one. Somebody left a great comment for me and said, hey, I have experience with this. You should really pick up the Canon one. The tolerances are just better, things like that. So I did, and I've been really happy with it. I've been using that with some of my PL mount lenses. But that did add on to the cost. So I had that $5K initial cost. I bought the PL mount, was just over $1,000, which is a little steep, but I needed that capability. That's partly why I bought the C500 Mark II, because I knew I could swap out for the EF and the PL mount. So that was important to me. So I needed to get one. That was the plan all along. So now I'm up to around $6,000, right? And the second thing that I kind of really needed to add on to it was a different battery solution for it. And as much as I love the Canon BP batteries, and I still had a bunch from my C200 that I used to own. I shouldn't say a bunch, but I had some. I had, you know, the BPA 60, BPA 30, I was familiar with those. And those are great batteries, and they've got good battery life. You know, the BPA 60, I think, is equivalent almost to a 98 watt hour battery. So you're getting similar run times there. But I wanted to standardize it over to V-mount so that I could just run that across all my systems, across my Komodo, across my C500 Mark II. I've got a little V-mount attachment and set up for my R5C. So just to make that simple. So I bought a V-mount solution for my Canon. And I had looked at some that come on rods. There's a bunch of other ones that start coming along. But the one that I bought attaches directly to the back, screws into the back of the Canon, has a great little, you know, power XLR cable that goes down, adds DTAP, and just kind of like becomes part of the camera. And so I bought that, and that was around $500. So now I'm at $6,500. So that is kind of where that camera ended up in terms of price. I ended up spending about $6,500 to get it up to par with where I wanted. I already had a bunch of other stuff. I had, you know, bright tangerine gear and stuff for it. I had handles and various mounting and stuff like that. So it may continue to evolve, but that's kind of where things are. But I still think it's phenomenal here in 2024 to end up with this camera where I wanted it to be at $6,500, because this was a $16,000 camera when it came out. And like anything that's in tech, it's gone down in price, you know, over the years here. But as I was examining kind of the camera landscape here in 2024, I don't know that there's a bunch of stuff out there that's really beating it a whole bunch right now. The big thing that a lot of people get is to go to 8K, right? And the Sony Burano was extremely hot at the time that this video is out. That's a really hot camera right now. And the Burano shoots 8K, and everybody talks about how great that is. But one of the things I've also heard is that most people aren't going to shoot the 8K with the Burano. They're going to shoot the downsampled to like 6K. So if you look at it that way, it's like, hey, I could get 8K out of this, but I'm actually going to shoot 6K most of the time. You get a 6K resolution out of the C500 Mark II. So it's just some weird comparison stuff there that I was thinking about. One of the things I'd forgotten about was the build quality of this camera, and it's really built like a tank, right? Like Canon C series cameras are renowned for just being like incredible documentary cameras, and that everything's just in that package, and you can just, I don't know, use it as like a hammer if you need to when you're out there. And I've seen them put in some really crazy, precarious like positions. Not where I'm taking it when I go on corporate gigs or things like that, but people use them in war zones and people use them in like extreme temperatures and all that kind of stuff. And it just holds up, like the camera just works. So that's something that I was really looking forward to, is just getting back to that level of durability and utility in a lot of ways. The body design, have always loved, just all the function buttons that are on there that you can easily get to. It's a very quick camera to get around. I've always really liked the Canon menus. I've heard other people say that they're confusing. I guess I just have enough experience with them, like anything, that you get used to it. But I never thought they were hard to get around even when I was new to the menus. I don't think they're nearly as confusing as something like a Sony, right? But there's just so many little things on the body that make it nice and convenient. I love the built-in hand grip and that you can take it off and extend it. I've got an extender cable for it, so I can make it shoulder mounted and put it down here and extend the grip and have run stop from the handle. I love that, actually. I love that you can also just keep it up there and use it like this and hold it to your body if you want to go really small. I love that option on it. I love the cable for the monitor. It provides power and signal, so I don't have to run separate power for like I do if I'm running a separate external monitor. It's a pretty good monitor. It's not the brightest monitor. I do kind of wish it was a little brighter, but the size is pretty good, and I know how to look at it and I can judge the exposure and the things that I need to off of it, and that it's going to work. I'm going to get a picture that's comparable to what I'm seeing. And just all the tools and overlays and stuff that are built into that monitor are pretty great. It's got a great setup. They've really thought it through. The audio is not a big deal to me. The audio jack outputs are on the opposite side of the camera. If you do want to buy the extension for that, you can, and then you can have two on your side. But I'm not riding my levels a lot usually when I'm doing stuff. I guess maybe I'm not a true documentary cinematographer in that aspect, but if you need to, you could do some stuff to get around that. You could, buy extra things or set it on automatic or whatever. Even right now, I'm just running straight into, an overhead Sennheiser 416 right now, straight into the camera, and it's got fantastic preamps, and the audio is good. I got the limiter turned on, all the things that you need to make this setup easy. So I love that. I think the lens options is something else that I've really liked about the C500 II. I actually like that it's an EF and PL mount camera the way I've got it set up. Most of the lenses that I own are EF and PL, and that's by design, because the EF mount lenses are easily adaptable to a variety of systems. The R5C is an RF mount camera. I have a bunch of adapters for EF and PL, and same thing with the Komodo. But I had not bought a bunch of RF lenses, and I know that everyone says the RF lenses are better designed, and in some aspects they are. They're a more modern design. There's some things that they're doing there that are really great, and technically, on a technical level, are better lenses. But the price that you can get used EF lenses for now because of that is unbelievable. Lenses that previously were kind of unattainable not unattainable, I guess, but they were expensive, and now they're not. They're cheap, and they're still great. They're amazing. And so I use those lenses for stills all the time, and I use them for video. They've got the autofocus built in, and if I'm not doing some more, narrative 30-second type stuff where I want PL lenses and the pull focus and all that, then these EF lenses are amazing. And they give you the ability to do this, where to track the face in an interview and sit here and run 2 cameras and track the face over here on this one, and do some fun stuff there. So you can't really discount that when you're doing this type of work, this type of corporate 2-camera interview, B-roll, you need autofocus, you need to move fast type of work. That's just bread and butter like stuff that a lot of people need and you do all the time. And this camera makes that easier. And so that's another thing I love about it. I think it's cool to then have the R5C that I can cut to. And now I've got 2 full frame cinema cameras. One that's very small, can go on a gimbal. One that's a little bit bigger, and is more of a, I guess the more impressive of the 2, has some more stuff built in. But honestly, I put the C500 II on the DJI RS3 gimbal, and you can balance it and it works. And that's pretty cool. So it's, you strip it all the way down, it'll fit on there, and you can run it on the gimbal if you want to. But honestly, for a lot of that, I think the R5C is just fine. I think the media is really fantastic. They are on the modern media. Some of these older cameras or high-end cameras have some quirky media stuff that they're doing. If you go to the Venice and some of the crazy stuff that's over there, and proprietary media and things like that. I love that it's CF Express Type B for the C500 Mark II, and that it also has an SD card slot that does proxies. That is fantastic. It has dual card slots. Again, it's just very well thought out as a working camera. And the other thing that's nice, and again, why I picked it up, is that that matches very well with my R5C, which is also CF Express Type B and SD cards. So that starts to simplify that workflow a little bit. Less card readers you have to bring because it works across both. Same cards that can swap. That is a very nice benefit of, systems that work together. The other cool thing about the battery system and the way that works is that because you have the built-in BP battery slot and then also the V-mount, is that it gives you kind of a hot swap capability. So if one starts running down, it's pulling off of the V-mount and that goes dead, it'll automatically swap over to the BPA60, which is kind of how I run it usually, with the BPA60 and V-mount on the back. And I love that. That's fantastic. So I've been running some tests. I've been comparing it to the 6K out of my Komodo, and I'm going to do some equal tests to the 6K out of the R5C and also the 8K out of the R5C. And that has been some really revealing testing in terms of, how much resolution you're truly getting out of that, like how much the detail is in the image. I found some interesting things there between the C500 II and the Komodo. The way the highlights roll off, kind of the way it responds in the darks and at different ISOs and things like that. Been doing a lot of extensive testing there, and I'll get into that in kind of a different video. But basically the consensus on that is that the kind of what I thought, the C500 II really stands up well to the image out of the Komodo. By the same account, the Komodo actually does super well for what is a Super 35 or just over a Super 35 size sensor compared to the C500 II being full frame. So that's interesting, nice comparison there. But for now, I think we'll just call this the first installment, I guess, of the C500 II Chronicles. So that's all for me on this one. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.